In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create your first Profound.js web service. Now, there is some actual setup required, and we will be doing this on a local machine. So, for example, I'm on Windows, and it will be connecting to IBMI to fetch the data, but the web service will be hosted on my local machine. Of course, because it's Profound.js, it can run on an IBMI as well. It can run on any system, which is very cool. The first step is actually getting your local Profound.js server to connect to the IBMI. And to do this, we need to create a credentials file, and we can do this by calling node store credentials. So, for example, I have a command prompt here, which is its current working directory is my Profound.js instance, and I'm going to do node store underscore credentials, and it's going to prompt me for my username and password, which would be the user profile we use to connect to the IBMI. It's going to create a file which we can just leave. It's an encrypted value of our username and password put together. Now we need to make changes to our config.js, and I'm going to do this within Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to open up here. We need to add the connector credentials. There we go. It usually helps if I can spell it. We need to add the connector credentials, which is just going to point to the file that we just created. So, for example, I'm actually just going to copy it from here. And I'm going to need to, as you can see, Visual Studio Code is actually highlighting the backslash and the C, and I actually need to double backslash these values here. And we also need to add the connector URL. So this is usually where, well, the IBMI the connector is running on. So in my case, it's http://power8, and the port is 8231. Now that will be different in your case, but that's the connector URL. And just to make sure it's running, you can actually just do a node start to make sure the server is running. As you can see, there is no crashes. It's connected to the IBMI. If it crashes, that usually means that something has gone wrong or it's not connected to the IBMI correctly. But that hasn't happened in my case, which is good. Now next we actually need to create the web service. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the modules folder here. I'm going to make a new directory. I'm going to call it the app. I'm going to make a new file in here, and I'm going to call it get orders. And this is we'll be using a template for all of the web services, so it will look like this function. Oh, actually, we called it get orders. We need to call it getorders.js. There we go. So function get orders is what the web service will be called. It's going to have two parameters. It's going to be request REQ and response RES. And outside of the function, we're going to do exports.run equals get orders. Okay, and inside of the function, we're going to make a call to, well, with a PGS API, PGS query. And the first parameter is actually just like a select statement. So, for example, select all from demolib/orders. Now, I'm actually hard coding the library in here. Of course, in an SQL statement, it will use the library list. And you can set up the library list within the config.js. When a web service connects to the IBMI, the library list will become the path list, basically. And demolib is actually in there, so I can just make it so it's just orders, like that. And that's pretty much what the query is going to be. It's going to return a set of orders, which is cool. Of course, if this file was huge, then you might want to put a where clause on it. So, for example, well, you know, a where clause, you could put a where clause on it. And to actually make it make the web service respond, we can just do res.json and then orders. So this means that the response of the web service is going to return JSON, and that JSON object is what we're going to respond. So it's a JSON web service, basically. And that's the web service. Now, we need to do one more thing, which is make a change to the start.js. So inside of if is worker, at the bottom, before the end of the if statement, we're going to do app.use, and it's going to take two parameters. The first one is a string, and we're going to do /getOrders. And the second one is going to be Profound.js.express. Now, in here, we need to put the path to the getOrders file relative to the modules directory. So in our case, it's just going to be the app/getOrders, like so. Save it. Make sure all your files are saved. I'm just going to save all of mine, and then of course start up the web service again. Okay, it started. As you can see, I had it running previously, but now if I refresh, I actually get the response as I'm expected, and we can stop it too and refresh, and it will be down. As you can see, the site can't be reached, but let's start it up again, run it, and we get our web service as we'd expect. Now, what we'll do, just so I can show you something, is we'll actually make it require a parameter. So what we'll do, we'll make a new web service. Let's go to the app here and let's make a new file. Let's call it getOrder.js. So this web service is actually going to require a single parameter, which is going to be the product ID, and then by that product ID we'll find all the orders. So for example, we'll do a function, and of course we'll just use the same template. We'll use getOrder, request, response, and the exports.run is going to be getOrder. Now because we'll be passing in an ID in this web service, we need to obviously get that ID out. So the PRID is going to equal, it will be request.params, P-R-A-M-S dot PRID. And then what we can do actually is just copy the use of the PJS query here, paste it in, and we'll actually just add a where clause. So where, I think it's orders or order PRID equals question mark, and then on the second parameter of PJS query we will just put in the PRID value. So this where this question mark is, it will be replaced with the PRID. That's a binding parameter in SQL, a parameter marker as well. So that's as simple as it gets, and of course we need to make a change to the start.js here. So we can just use app.use. Let's add /getOrder/ PRID. Well, actually I've put a /:PRID. So where this colon is, that means it's a variable on the URL. And as you can see, I've used PRID here, and in the getOrder API I've used PRID in the params. So any parameters passed in can be retrieved in the web service. So we also need to add Profound.js.express, and it will point to the getOrder file. getOrder. And that's our new web service created. So now we can start up our server again, and we can then go ahead and see that the get order is now working, 102, and now all the orders returned are order PRID 102. So we can change it to 105. It'll be all 105, and if we don't have a parameter on there, it won't work. Let's say it's going to do 110. As you can see, it loads all the parameters for 110. And of course our getOrders API is still working over here, which is very useful. So thanks very much for watching, and hopefully you can make use of this functionality in your stack.